All right. Welcome, Kern. Kern
Thank you.
Schwartz. Kern Schwartz is our Market Center Alliance partner with O'Kelly and Sorohan. Kern is fantastic. I just rattled off about 5 minutes of how I love Kern without the recorder on. But in summary, Kern is my favorite representative of O'Kelly and Sorohan that I've known in the roughly 10 years that I've been at the Market Center. She is so helpful. She has helped me get stay out of trouble a couple times, and she has received a couple urgent calls here and there over the time to help one of our agents get out of trouble or stay out of trouble, and help myself or Pam out with a transaction or something. So I'm very grateful for that. You have, as I was saying, you've written a handful of checks to support our initiatives and our causes that agents are aware of. And you've also contributed in some pretty significant ways that weren't, made so public. So I'm very grateful for that. Kern is also a big smiling face. She engages with Keller Williams in a ton of different ways. She's, traveled with us to Austin and Anaheim and LA, or not LA, Orlando and San Antonio and New Orleans and all those places, Dallas. And I just love being in business with you. So my plan for today, Kern, is I want you to share your story to some degree, right? Tell us who you are, a little bit about your why you love doing what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about your family, and then I want you to kind of give a basic overview of the mortgage business. We have probably about half relatively new agents here and about half more seasoned agents here. So I'd love for you to cover some basic topics like title search, insurance, things to, common mistakes that agents make in the course of dealing with the closing attorney. And then at the end, we'll open up the floor for any questions. And I'd love for this to be pretty interactive. So don't hesitate to take yourself off mute and shout out a question of Kern. And the floor is yours.
Thanks, Bill. How long do you want me to go?
So I'd like to wrap up at about 1 o'clock.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Bill, so much for allowing me to do this. Even though we're all virtual now, which of course drives me crazy because, I'm back still, if we could use fax machines and a telephone, I'd be okay with that. So I'm learning a lot about the tech, which is good because I do have 3 boys that are all doing virtual school. So they're 16, 13, and 9. So that's been an interesting adventure. So I got in the business really toe in 01. I was a divorce attorney. So I'm a recovering divorce attorney is what I say. And I was working in a real estate firm, and they came in and said, we're going to teach you how to do a closing and help us out into the month if you're not in court. So I started with refinances and investors and closing those. And I was working down in Peachtree City and driving 90 miles a day. And then we had our first child, and I said, well, my husband said, I don't want to move down there anymore. And I said, that's fine, but I can't continue to do this. So I'm going to go find something else to do. And I thought I was going to open my own practice and was working on that, working out of my house, and was trying to pick up some contract closings at the end of the month with a firm that I had a friend working at. And I went in and talked to them, and they said, well, we want to hire you full time. And I was like, you're kidding, right? Like, I don't know how to clear title. I don't know any of that. And they're like, you can't teach the stuff that you already know. You've got the closing part down. The rest of it, we'll teach you. So that's how I started doing this, and I full-time in 05. And I told my husband the first day, I was like, real estate, this is going to be so dull. I'm going to be 6 months from now trying to open my divorce practice again. I'm going to hate this. I have loved it. Would never go back. It's the same thing over and over that we deal with, right? But each deal is different. And it's the challenge of each deal that I love. And I love working with y'all. I mean, y'all make my business, right? That's how I support my family. And so I want to support your business and help you with your success, as much as I can. And I did learn it backwards. So if you're new, you can always ask me. I got a text this morning that somebody said rookie question. I'm like, well, it's not really a rookie question. That's a really, pretty advanced question, but I don't mind a rookie question. If I can help save you some of the heartache that I've had learning this business, that's my goal. So I've only been really with 2 real estate firms. So I came to O'Kelly in 2011 during the time that we were still doing a bunch of foreclosures, REO sales, and all that. An opportunity opened up over here, and I ran our office at Galleria for several years, and then they asked me to come over to Alpharetta when Josephina took a leave, and so I've been here. I don't even know what year that was. 15, 16.
Yeah, I remember Josephina. Absolutely.
So it was like doing high school all over again, but knowing what I know now, because I didn't know any of the agents that we had been working with for so long. I think I knew like maybe 6 agents out of y'all's office that had closed in Cobb with me. So that was really a fun challenge as well. So we are over on Haynesbridge, right by 400 North Point Mall is where our office is. So if you come up West Side Parkway, you'll come right up to us. So we're close by, and as this COVID stuff hopefully starts to settle down and calm down, you'll see me in person more and more. Closings right now, let's just talk about, let me just start with COVID and get that out of the way. Okay, so lots of questions about, and every firm is doing kind of similar things, but maybe a little bit differently. So the biggest thing that I think probably helps you on the closing side is forming that relationship with the closing attorney, right? It's nice for y'all because you know me, you get to know my staff. If you have a question about, what we're doing, procedure for a particular deal, we're here to help you. But really, closing attorneys are not scary people. So, whether you're closing with us or somebody else, always feel free. If you've got a question or a problem on a deal or want to know, what do I do? My client has called me. They think maybe they've tested, they've taken a test. They think it may be positive. They're having some, what do I do? How do I fix this? That's what we love to do. We love to fix those problems for y'all. And we have all kinds of options. So, if it's a problem at the walkthrough, whatever. So right now, closing with us, Donna knows she just had her first deal with us. Yay! And she called our office and, what am I doing? Can I come? Because you'll get an email from my office that says we are essentially signers only, right? So, you're welcome to come to the closing. I'm trying to do everything that I can to do this, the 6 feet. We're cleaning in between the closings. We're using fresh pens for everyone that comes in. I'm signing buyers and sellers in separate rooms. Okay. And that doesn't mean, and Donna and I had a conversation about this because, I don't mind if your clients don't mind. And I don't have 4 people signing at the same time, if you're coming back in the room. If we can all stay 6 feet apart, we can do that. I don't mind that. On busier days, it becomes more difficult to do, right? If your client, doesn't want you to come, or you don't feel comfortable coming, we're going to take good care of them, and we're going to communicate with you if we have any issues. But really right now, folks are coming in and signing. They've seen their loan documents. They've seen the settlement statement, what really the closing mostly should be, if everything's going right, is just a formality of getting the documents signed. So even though we are, in late August now, it's usually slow this time of year, or slower. Slows down in August when the kids go back to school. September's a little bit slower. It picks up in October. Then Thanksgiving, it's a little bit slow, and then we kick it off at the end of the year. The volume is much higher at the moment than it typically is this time of year, which is awesome. We will take it because you have a couple things going on, right? You've got COVID has sort of made things funky with slowing in May a little bit, spreading it out. And then the rates are great. So people trying to get in homes and trying to refinance. So the lenders are going crazy with refinances. So the biggest thing that I think will help you right now is patience, flexibility, and scheduling. Okay. Friday's always the busiest day of the week to schedule. I mean, that's why I was late jumping onto the call because we had somebody that had a problem with a walkthrough this morning. So if you can avoid Fridays, I know people want to close on Friday because they're taking off work and then moving. I get that. And I'm fine with it because my husband knows I'm not home till late Friday night, so he's got to deal with my kids. So, you know, it's not that I don't want you to close at 4 o'clock on Friday. It's just not always the best time because lenders, you know, need to see documents when we sign them. We may not have a wire coming in. We're past the wire cutoff, so we can't wire to the seller late Friday afternoon. So if you were going to pick the best day of the week to close, I would say it would be a Thursday or Wednesday. The only issue with Wednesday is that they have to disclose if there's a loan on Friday in time, and Friday's the busiest day, right? I don't know why, but it seems like in the last year, everybody wants to close on Monday. The problem with Monday is you're doing walkthrough either Monday morning, Sunday afternoon, right? And there's an issue Sunday and something hasn't been done, the repair's not finished, you know, you've got you may want to increase seller closing costs. Well, we're closed, the bank's closed, you can't get approval from the lender, you got to wait till Monday morning and try and fix the problem, right? So Mondays are not the best day. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if you can pick that and control that, that's probably the best. End of the month too, everybody wants to close. And it's an old refinance thing too. The 15th, the middle of the month. Next month I was looking at it. I mean, I'm like double booked every hour right smack dab in the middle of the month because everybody's trying to refinance that day. And then of course the 31st, everybody wants to close that day for the end of the month.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. We in our morning huddles every day, we're talking about the leadership morning huddles. We're tracking, how many pending transactions do we have? How many units have closed already this month versus how many are projected? And it's amazing. We probably have 50% of our transactions happen in the last week of the month. Mm-hmm. And somewhere realtors are told that like closing at the end of the month is like what you should do. It doesn't have to be that way.
No. And, talk to your clients too, when you're picking those closing dates. You want to give the lender plenty of time to process the loan. You want to make sure that, buyers or seller, your clients, not right now, people aren't traveling for work like they were, but, what's a good time? Do they have kids doing virtual school and they're working from home and they're trying to run the virtual school, right? So maybe a morning closing is like not a great idea. I'm a big proponent of scheduling things early too, especially if it's a busy day, and to try and schedule things, at a good hour, like 9 o'clock. Not always the best because if we're waiting on loan documents or something from the lender that, and the lenders in California. I love 10 and 2 when you're scheduling your closings. You can schedule your closing at any time with me. I've seen emails that some firms send out. We don't even schedule till we have a lender package, or we don't do that. We don't do that at O'Kelly, and certainly not in my office. If you called me and said, I want to close on the 31st, and it's going to be a quick close, and I'm going to send you the contract, but I don't have the bound one yet. What time you got? I'll put you on the calendar.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a couple. You said that we choose the day that we close.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a closing, so I don't know, like, how do I know when?
Great question. So when let's say you're representing the buyer, right? It's going to be in your offer. You're going to pick, it says the transaction is going to be closed on August 31st. Possession at closing or after closing or whatever. You're gonna pick that in the offer. So and it's negotiated, right? So when you get that offer, if you're the listing agent, you're gonna want to say, okay, well, we want to accept this offer, or we're gonna counter, and I can't. That's our anniversary. We don't want to close that day. We want to be moved in and done before, whatever. So it's negotiated. Closing attorney too. That brings up a great point. The closing attorney is negotiated in the contract. So sometimes I'll have listing agents say, oh, they'll call me with a question on something. I couldn't close this with you because I got the seller. Okay. And that's okay too. I'm okay with that. I know you're not going to close every transaction with me. In an ideal world, that would be lovely. But if you have a question on something that's closing somewhere else and you need help, call me. But that the buyer puts in a closing attorney, especially as a new agent, Ebony, you don't know anything. You don't, about that attorney. Where's their office? Is that convenient for my client? You can negotiate that. I say on the listing side, you're going to counter probably anyway, most of the time. So you can always counter with a closing attorney. And when you're putting in your contracts, if you are selecting O'Kelly, my recommendation is that you designate the office, because a lot of folks work with us, right? So you may have somebody even in the legacy group that's at Chat North that closes with Catherine, and you want to close it in Alpharetta and your clients are here. You can put O'Kelly and Sorohan Alpharetta. You can put our telephone number. Some people will just put O'Kelly, Kern, Schwartz, so that the other side knows where you're asking to close.
Right. Couple of things like Kern, I don't know if you did this for me because we've known each other for a long time, but like you closed my deal at the Midtown office. I don't know if I should have said that out loud. But.
And I have done, I have done that. Many times where I've gone to another office to close it. We are super collegial, right? No, I don't have a whole lot to compare it to because, like I said, I've only been with two firms, but we want your business. So, sometimes I'll have folks say, oh, well, I'm sorry, I couldn't get it. It's O'Kelly. Like, we love it. If you have something down in Stockbridge, use our Stockbridge office. If you need to do a split closing, I think Donna and I talked about that, right? Where, your client's here, and they've already moved, they're in Lawrenceville, they want to close at our Gwinnett office. We can always do a seller's side in one office and a buyer in another. We can accommodate pretty much anything. I mean, our goal is to make this a good experience for your clients, and to work with them.
So one other thing, this is just another good example of time management, right? Typically the first person to schedule or to attempt to schedule the closing gets what they want, right? So for example, if you generate leads from 9 to 11 and an ideal time for you to close is 3 o'clock, well, then once the deal is confirmed, once it's executed, then you call Kern and say, okay, well, we got a closing in 35 days on October the 3rd. Can I have the 3 o'clock slot, please? Right? And then you send out an email to everyone saying, we got the 3 o'clock slot, everyone, right? Because that's just taking control so that you can manage your time. The other alternative is for you to say, does anyone care what time we close this deal? And you'll end up having to rearrange your schedule because you allowed somebody else to take control, right? So you get,
or you can go kind of in the middle. You can go kind of in the middle and say, hey, would 3 o'clock work for everyone? That's why
Pam and I get along, because she keeps me in check. But yeah, the person that kind of puts it out there first generally gets to be involved in what time it happens. And that allows you, like if you're on the buyer side, to go and do the walkthrough at a reasonable time. If you have a 9 a.m. closing in Alpharetta, and the house is, let's say, in Duluth or something, you're going to be there at 7:15 to see that home and to get to the attorney's office in time, right? So set things up in a way that makes life easy for you.
So who chooses, who's the one who normally chooses the closing attorney, or it doesn't matter, just whoever throws it out there first?
Well, it's a part of the offer, right?
Yes.
So the offer is going to be created on the buyer side. That's one of the blanks on page 1. And more often than not, that is not something that's negotiated, even though it certainly could be. Generally, the parties will go back and forth on price and closing cost and closing date and some other stuff, as opposed to the closing attorney. That's not something that's generally negotiated, not because it shouldn't be or can't be. It's just, generally speaking, they pick the bigger, more, kind of financially important topics. And also, by the way, if you're on the listing side and you get an offer from a closing attorney you've never heard of, please look them up. Call Kern and ask. Hey,
yeah, I'll tell you. There's lots of good attorneys who.
Right. But you also want to look at a fee sheet. Like, you want to make sure the prices for title insurance and stuff like that are reasonable. Like, there's a couple other things that you can do to make sure that your buyer's getting this is going to be a successful partner in the process.
And sometimes the listing agent will identify a preferred closing attorney in the listing. So if there are multiple offers and you really want to get the deal, that's something, you need to pay attention to.
Good point.
So how do we know what are good costs? Like, I wouldn't know a good attorney from a bad attorney when it's coming through this, because in my head, and I promise you, I don't mean any disrespect, but it's just like, okay, you guys are super smart, you know the process of it. So what is it, not just what am I trying to say? Straightforward, like with anyone, like would the main difference be fees, or would it be time slots?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ebony. So let me talk about that, right? So
I've got my own thoughts on that. You go first, Kern.
Maybe I should hear what you have to say first.
Honestly, the pricing, as far as I can tell, are pretty similar. You're not going to find somebody that's like way off base.
Yes.
The pricing is pretty similar. Everyone's a lawyer, right? They're all held to the same, ethical standard. The way I would judge a solid closing attorney from a not solid closing attorney, number one, is a Google search for some reviews, if I'm not familiar with the name. And I'm also going to judge you on how good at communicating you are. Not like how you speak on the phone, but like how quickly you take care of my needs, right? Okay. If I ask you for something and I don't hear from you for 4 days, you're fired.
Okay, cool, Vince.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kern.
And you will see, for the most part, like similar firms that our fees are very standard. Okay. Title insurance is what it is. We have to go by the published rates. Each title, we have like 6 title insurance companies that we write for, and they vary, a few dollars here and there depending on the price point. But those are all set rates. You can find them online. That's publicly available information. And our fees are very similar. The difference, there are some firms that charge, $300 less than what we do. And I'll tell you, what the biggest difference is in the way that the model that we have versus their model. Okay. Theirs is like a volume.
Can you start by explaining what title insurance even is?
Yes. So title insurance, there's 2 types of title insurance. There's owners and lenders. And basically that title insurance, if there's a problem, if there's a boundary dispute, if there's a lien that didn't show up on the title or something that, something that was missed in the records or wasn't filed in the records when the title search was run, that title insurance protects you. So many years ago, when it became sort of standard, what happened was there was a bunch of land in Cobb County that was owned by a lady, and her sister went off and sold her land, and it became a subdivision. And she pretended to be her. The sister comes back in town, checks it out, sees it's been sold, makes a title claim against all of the owners in that subdivision. Okay, that didn't, if they didn't have title insurance, they didn't have any protection. So if something catastrophic like that happened, and you paid $350,000 for a house, and you got an owner's policy, that policy now would cover what you paid and up to 150% of what you paid for the property.
So give us an example of, give us another example, if you don't mind, about like how title insurance might be able to be used. Like,
okay, so I had one.
Death, or in a, you know,
right. If
you know, long lost cousin comes back and says, hey, I wasn't in the will, or whatever, like that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll give you a real world example. I had another law firm that called me last week and said, I have an open security deed from on the title that wasn't canceled, that was from our seller in the property, right? It was never canceled. It's showing up on their title exam. That's covered by title insurance. So normally, you know, I get those calls all the time. I would just send them the title policy, and that title is insurable again. In this particular case, that buyer at our closing waived the title insurance, so they did not purchase it, so it is not covered. So they're trying to locate the seller to have them follow up to get that cleared on the title, and it actually has to be cleared and not what we call closed over. So that's very common. Like when the downturn happened and a lot of the lenders and banks were going under, then those loans, there was nobody there to cancel them because those banks don't exist anymore. And those still show up on the title, and that can be covered by title insurance. In the case of a death, and an heir comes forward and makes a claim, or if somebody filed bankruptcy and a creditor makes a claim, and they're back in the chain of title, that's covered by title insurance. Okay, and a good example is like if I run title today, you're selling your house, and I run title today, and you know, there's what we call a gap. You know, right now it's only a few days. So if I run title today, it's probably, the records are probably good from like the 16th or 17th. But if on the 18th, the IRS filed a lien against you, that's not going to show up on my title exam. That's covered by title insurance. And human error too. You know, that's what I was telling somebody the other day. The folks that run the title, I mean, they may be lawyers. Some are, some aren't, but they're humans. So they can miss something in the deed records, absolutely. And then you have a title claim.
So a good rule of thumb would be the moment that if you're representing the buyer and they put the offer in on the property, contact an attorney ASAP, so you make sure that.
I mean, the standard thing is Ebony, we will put that on the settlement statement. The lender will factor that in their estimates too, and assume that the buyer is going to want to purchase it, because the lender's policy is required. All lenders require title insurance. What does that tell you? But the buyer's policy is optional, and on their CD that they get on their loan, it shows that it's optional. But if you have a client that has questions about it, and I often do, I mean, I get several a week of buyers that want to know what the title insurance is, should they get it, those kinds of things. You know, we'll talk to them about it. As an agent, I would never, I've heard agents say, you know, over the years, oh, you don't need it, it's new construction, or you don't need it, it was owned by the same person, it's been in their family for years, you don't need title insurance. Would always get it, and
That's
I would
exactly
never
why you need
not
it.
to. Mm-hmm.
I would say, but just to make sure you heard that completely clear, Ebony, When you send over the executed contract to the attorney and say, hey, Kern, here's a new file, 123 Hill Street, closing on September 18th, that's one of the things they do. One of the first things they do is they send out a buyer information sheet to the new buyer and a seller information sheet to the new seller, or they usually send it through the agent. And one of the questions on the buyer information sheet is, would you like buyer's title insurance? And so they handle all the title search. They'll let you know if there's any issues. That's not something that you generally have to worry about.
Right. Which sort of brings me back to, like, what's the difference, right? If you have somebody that wants to use a firm that's $300, I mean, that's usually what the difference is, about $300. The difference is this: when you send me a contract, I order the title on it. When I load it, the same day I load it in my system, which is either the day you send it to me or the next day. I don't wait. I pay for my title, whether it closes or not. We have some that end up not closing. They terminate during due diligence. I've already ordered the title because I want to be ready. If there's a title problem on there that we need to clear, I want to know about it. So I go ahead and pay that. That's an expense that I pay. And that's sort of the difference. A lot of the firms that do more of a, it's just a run off the volume, they're going to wait longer so they don't have as much fallout and they're not paying upfront for that title like I am. Not to say that, we don't have things that sometimes we're clearing, up until the closing, but we want to know about that issue so that if I think that most of the things that I clear on the title, y'all never know is there, because I get it cleared up and done, and I don't think it's going to be an issue. If there's ever anything that crops up that I think I'm going to have difficulty clearing, it's going to take a while, or it may be something that, we're not going to be able to clear without a quiet title action or something, I'm going to be talking to you about that. So you're not finding out about that right down to the wire before the closing.
So if it doesn't close, then who reimburses you for?
Nobody.
The loss?
I pay for it. I pay for that.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. That's the
difference. Okay.
Hey, yeah, Ebony, if you drive a buyer around all weekend and they don't buy with you, who reimburses you?
Nobody. It's frustrating.
We're business owners, right? That's how it works.
Yep. And I'm the same as y'all. I don't get paid unless it closes. Now, and that's the other thing too. If you've got the buyer and you're bringing me in, like that listing agent, I've never done a deal for whatever. We have a special relationship with y'all, but I'm treating everybody like I want them to send me their next deal. I'm going to take good care of you, whether I know you or not. And I'm probably going to call that listing agent and say, hey, I see the buyer terminated. Sorry, hopefully you'll get a new buyer soon. And I just want to let you know, I've got the title back. It's cleared, or I'm working on a couple of issues. I'm going to go ahead and clear those up. You get a new buyer. Be happy to close it for you. Okay.
Cool. Go ahead, Kern. What I was going to say, if anyone else has any questions about title insurance or any other topic that Kern could maybe lead the discussion in that direction.
Yeah.
Open forum.
Yeah. If y'all have questions, let me know. I just want to say that y'all want the inside track, right? We're human beings. My staff is incredible. They work so hard. They're very experienced. They love what they do. They want to help you communicate with us, talk to us. It's like anything else. If you're an email person, great. They're on the email all day long. If you're like me and you're a telephone person and you make a call to them and you call and you say you got a problem, I'm in a closing. If they can't answer the question or help you, they're grabbing me in the hallway when I step out and helping you out. My closer tells me all the time, she's like, so-and-so was so nice, so great to work with. I just I know, so-and-so has a problem and they call my closer, she's going to help them out. So we love to hear from you and we love to solve your problems.
I just wanted to, I don't have a question, but I have a couple of comments. I wanted to basically attest to Kern and her staff. They're so responsive. They're so great. You know how we need a legal description when we submit an offer? I mean, Maddie is so responsive in her office with sending me back the legal description. They're just really great at communicating. My first closing was through Kern's office, and her staff, just the constant communication on what's going on and what they need and just following up. It was awesome. And Kern herself, whenever I have a question or a need, she personally calls me. I mean, the attorney's calling me and taking the time out just to make sure that I have the information that I need. So I really appreciate you guys. The second thing is, like, I put in an offer on another property for another buyer yesterday, and I had a conversation with the listing agent before I did that to see what was important to the seller, because they did have an attorney identified, a preferred closing attorney identified in the listing. And when I mentioned your firm, you know, that was like a very positive thing, that we're gonna, you know, I'm gonna put O'Kelly and Sorohan in the offer, because the firm that they had identified in the listing was, I guess, the seller's preference, but the listing agent indicated, you know, that they're not always responsive. Sometimes we have to ask 2 or 3 times before we get something. So just 2 different ends of the spectrum. I can really
and know too that, you know, like I said, the volume is incredible right now. I mean, I don't know how many hours I've worked this week, but I'm like y'all. I'm working. You know, I'm working all the time. So email is the best, absolute best way to reach me, because I check that on the weekends. If it's during normal business hours and you need help, call my office. Now, I'm going to give you my cell phone number. I want y'all to put me in your phone. Okay. My cell phone does not work great in here. Text is great. If you need something right away, it's emergency, you know, text me. But it doesn't always ring, and I don't always get a voicemail notification when I'm in here. So call my office if you need me. But if you're working on something that it needs an answer and you need help, and it's Saturday or Sunday, you know, shoot me a text. You can call me. I'm not always as fast at responding on the weekends, but I will help you. So write this down. My cell phone number is 404-931-6168. 404-931-6168. Because I don't want y'all, you know, waiting till 9 o'clock Monday morning to get a response if you need it. And you can friend me on Facebook. You'll see, if you want to see pictures of my kids, send me a message on Facebook, whatever.
I don't know if I should ask this question, but I'm going to anyway. You are being recorded, just so you know. You probably see a lot of different real estate agents, a lot of real estate brokerages. Is there anything that stands out from you from working with Keller Williams?
Oh gosh, so many things. So, you know, I did bold pivot too. I had never done it before. I did that in the spring. You know, the Y4C2Ts. I used to know the hand motions to that. I mean, I've been working with Keller Williams since I started in 2005. You know, y'all are awesome. And I know if I get if it's a Keller Williams office that, you know, works with one of our other offices or doesn't even have a relationship with O'Kelly, and the training, you know, y'all do it right. You're well trained.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I say I've been doing it long enough too. Now, you know, said sometimes I can tell you if I don't even, you know, if I didn't even look and I didn't know what company it was, it's like different, you know, personality of the agent. I can tell you what company they're coming from.
All right, we won't record any details on that. Okay, who else has some questions?
that's it? Y'all don't want to know anything else?
Seriously?
How many
I don't think
offices
you've
do you
ever
have?
wanted- we have an attorney for free for 13
Yeah.
more minutes.
How many offices? So we have.
Anyone
I
have
think
any divorce questions?
Hope not.
glad I don't have to answer this anymore. I think we have 23 or 24. We just opened another
Wow.
office in Marietta. I think we're at 24. So yeah, if you on our offices and all the locations and the contact information to send contracts is all on our website. But you're always welcome to contact us if you need something in another office. I can see, we're paperless. No, which would be hard for y'all to believe when you come to closing and see all the papers everybody has to sign. But once the file is in our system, I can see it from my desktop, right? So sometimes I'll have agent that will call me that works with me that's closing something in Duluth and says, hey, the attorney called me, there's a title issue and I'm not really quite understanding, and I'll go in and look at it. I can see it. Absolutely. What other questions do y'all have? No, and you can ask me any. I mean, I'll tell you if I don't know.
All right, tell us the craziest thing you've ever dealt with.
The craziest thing. So, we almost had a baby in here a couple years ago. Had a lady in labor. We got a call. They were supposed to close at like 3. It was a buyer, husband and wife. They were supposed to close at like 3 o'clock, and we got a call. Of course, end of the month. We're here early at like 8 o'clock in the morning. She's in labor, and it was like her 4th or 5th child. Right? She's in labor, and we're like, okay, well, I guess we don't have a 3 o'clock closing today. And like, no, she wants to come now. Can she come sign out? Sure. So she came in and signed and went to the hospital. So that's what somebody says. Were you nervous? And I said, well, no, because first of all, Nikki did it. But second of all, if I have a baby in a closing, I win all closing stories of all time.
That's true.
I mean, we've seen it all. I've had dogs, birds, lizards in here.
Anyone ever been arrested at the closing table?
I have not, but I had a seller that got bailed out of jail to come to the closing.
I have a question, Kern. What kinds of issues could arise that prevent the closing from going smoothly, and what can we do on our end to ensure that those things don't happen and that we do have a smooth closing?
Communicate, right? So the big thing right now that's happening on our end is we're getting closing documents from the lender really, really late. Like yesterday, we had one that we got an hour and a half after the closing was supposed to have started. Okay. So a lot of times we try and give you a heads up. If you're our 9 o'clock closing and we don't have it when we walk out the door, we're like, don't come straight to our office till you know that we've got the documents, because we don't want everybody to wait. But just know that, and not all lenders are like Shelter, where they're communicating with us and we at least know, the package is coming late, or they're sending us the closing disclosure. Some lenders don't communicate that with us at all. We don't get a closing disclosure until they're going to send us a loan package. If you have walkthrough issues or you're going to increase closing costs, or you do have some sort of problem like that, I'll help you navigate that. Like, I'm not the lender, I'm not the underwriter, but we can find out for you, hey, they need to increase the closing cost, or they need to move the closing date. Is the rate lock expiring? What do we need to be worried about? Or, hey, I know this lender's not going to let you hold money in escrow, but here's how you fix that. I'll help you navigate that. And a lot of times, with Shelter, I'll say that it's different because I know how they work. And I know that when Kathy's telling you something, she knows because she's talked to the underwriter about what they could do. But, a lot of times, especially like on a brokered loan, when you're talking to the loan officer, they're not the closing department. So a lot of times, I get that where, oh, well, the loan officer said it was okay, we could do X, Y, or Z, and the closing department tells us, no, we cannot do that. So if you have issues, communicate those with us as well, because I will tell you, hey, that's not, I don't know, that's a question for the lender, I'll ask the lender. Or that's a broker question, like you should get Melba involved. I'll help you with those kinds of things. But yeah, like communicating with us, especially right now with COVID. I mean, we have so many sellers that are signing early, that are signing on Zoom, that are, I've had several lately that are out of the country, and trying to get a power of attorney notarized is horrendously difficult. So if anything comes up, during the process, like we want to know about it, like this morning, for example, I have an Keller Williams agent that had the 9 o'clock closing, and that had a walkthrough issue. And so they called from the walkthrough this morning to let me know. And I'm like, okay, great. Well, this is what we'll do to resolve that and move your closing time, and let us know. Because, that's why I say about Fridays, like it's like a funnel, right? So if you get stuck in the funnel, and yours may be fine, but everybody else's is kind of having a problem, scheduling wise.
I will say,
Also-
I think things have gone a whole lot smoother since Trib.
Yes, I think the biggest problem that I see on my end that y'all deal with and is walkthrough items, and repair items. So I think it's always a good idea to put, if you're doing repairs, that they be completed, or invoices, receipts given, or whatever, so many days before the closing, or that you go in and you verify after the work's been done that it's right, even if you're still doing a final walkthrough, to resolve those issues. The other thing is getting documents and things to us, right? If you do an amendment, send it to the lender, send it to the closing attorney. If you're getting a termite bond, termite bonds are always last minute. Go ahead and get it. And that'll be your cue too, when you start getting that email or that phone call from my pre-closer saying, hey, I don't have a commission agreement. Can you send me that? I don't have a home warranty. Can you send me that? If you're doing a DA, email us the DA when you get it, even if
that's a pay it close.
Pay it close. Because even if you're not, or let us know you're doing one. Because if the first time we find out about it is at the closing table, then we got to set up the checks and all that, and it slows the process down on your end to do that.
Also, you can let Kern know, or any closing attorney know, if there's going to be like if there's some weird stuff going on, like maybe the buyer and seller haven't gotten along at all during the transaction, or maybe there's
even yeah, I had one last week, and they had a death in the family that they just found out about right before the closing, and the agent, which is just helpful, right? Because they're emotional, and they're trying to deal with other things, and so I'm knowing to try and get them in and out. I had buyers and sellers in the last couple of weeks that they just could not. I mean, they didn't even want to see each other in the lobby.
Yeah.
Right. So we factored all that in to do the scheduling.
Or divorcing sellers or something like that.
Yeah. That's what I say. If you have a divorce, if you have an estate, somebody's passed away, you find out that the seller's filed for a divorce right before let me know, and I will help you walk through that.
Kern, I have a question about the termite bond you brought up. How does that work in a condo situation? Like who provides that?
In a condo situation, right, that bond is is done through the association. So, you know, there's going to be a bond. You know, it's not going to be in your buyer's name. So you don't really need to worry about that. I mean, you can get, especially if it's like, you know, the condos that look like a townhome, but it's a condo.
Yes.
Yeah, you can ask that they provide a clearance letter, because their termite company will do that. But the biggest thing that I see, especially, well, new and experienced agents. I mean, I don't think folks don't know this, because, you know, it used to say in the guard contract that the seller would provide a clear termite letter within 30 days of closing. And they took that out a few years ago. So termite clearance letters are not as common. But the biggest thing is that you'll see contracts will say, oh, they'll transfer the existing bond, or they'll provide repair and retreat bond. And then we get the bonds, because we help you out with that, even if but we want to make sure that we're not supposed to be collecting any money for it. So we want a copy of it. So a lot of times, you know, it'll say it's a repair, they provide a 1-year repair and retreat bond. Well, 1 year from what? I mean, hopefully it says 1 year from the date of closing. And we'll get the bond, and it's just a retreat bond. It's not a repair bond.
No.
You know, when you
So
get,
we need to ask for that early then.
you do, and you need to make sure that you give it, if you're representing the buyer and you've got it and you're giving it to your buyer to look at and review. So they're not, you know, then they're not having a problem 6 months from now, and they come to find out they were supposed to get a repair and retreat, and it's only a retreat, and they never saw the termite bond beforehand. So make sure and send those things to your client too, and read them and look at them. I had one, and it was just weird. I mean, it said termite guarantee or something, but it didn't cover termites. It covered wood beetles. And the only way that you would know it is if you read down in the body of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've made hundreds of calls to pest control companies just to verify what the other side is telling me.
Yeah, and the pest control companies will tell. I mean, they'll tell you.
Right.
You know, they'll send you a copy of the bond, even if you're not representing the seller.
Right. And most lenders, VA still wants it, but most loans do not require a termite letter. And that's
they don't require it anymore unless it's VA.
Right. So that's probably why they took it out of the GAR purchase and sale, because the lenders weren't requiring it anymore. I would always recommend getting a termite inspection during the due diligence period. If there is
and GAR has special stipulations already written for either transferring or for them to get the repair and retreat.
Right. And I believe I just posted in the WhatsApp group another link to our special stipulations, like kind of a combination list, if you will, common special stipulations. And I believe there's language in that are both of the stipulations that Pam just described, which is how do we ask for there to be a clear letter, or how do we ask for there to be a free transfer?
Yeah, and if you need help with special steps, you know, we will help you do those. Most of the ones that you're going to need are already in the GAR forms.
Yeah.
But if you have a special situation and need help writing a stip, just, you know, let me know.
Cool. Okay. Any last minute questions for Kern? All right. Well, on behalf of the people in the room and behalf of those that will watch this later, thank you. Thanks
so
for being such an awesome partner for us, and appreciate all the things you do while people are watching, and all the things you do while people are not watching. So I'm very grateful for our relationship.
Me too. Me too, Bill.
Thank you, Kern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.